Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Figge Art Museum. My name is Joshua Johnson. I'm one of the co-senior curators here at the Figge, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you here tonight to celebrate the exhibition, Louise Kames, I Don't See Anything That's Not Beautiful, which of course you all saw on your way up to the auditorium tonight in the first floor Gilda House Gallery. We are so privileged to be hosting this exhibition, and we cannot thank Louise enough for being here tonight and presenting, but of course for also lending the wonderful works that are in the exhibition and creating them in the first place. A little business before we get to the kind of meat of tonight's talk. As many of you know, we try to host free Thursday night programming every Thursday night. We are able to do that through the generosity of Chris and Mary Rayburn. So Chris and Mary Rayburn, we thank you. A little round of applause for Chris and Mary Rayburn. For instance, next week we will be hosting the Sakowis Nobis, who is the founder and director of the Great Plains Action Society, who will be presenting a lecture on rematriation, our past, our future, which is discussing indigenous-led environmental and cultural restoration projects. This is, of course, in link to Cara and Diego Romero's exhibition, Tales of Future Past, which is currently on view on the third floor. So if you enjoyed tonight's presentation, please come back to see future Thursday night presentations, including next week's. While we are thanking sponsors, we of course need to thank the sponsors who helped make the exhibition possible tonight. So we would love to thank Andy and Debbie Butler, and Susan Perry and Stan Goodyear, who are the exhibition sponsors. The exhibition is also made possible through the support of the National Endowment for the Arts and the Iowa Arts Council, which is part of the Iowa Economic Development Authority. We would also, of course, like to thank our forever funders, the Quad City Cultural Trust, who continue to support the Figge in all of our endeavors. So a little round of applause for all of those as well. While programs like tonight and every Thursday night at the Figge are free, thanks to the generosity of our wonderful sponsors, we should also mention that we encourage you all to become museum members. Museum membership allows you special opportunities, allows you special events. It also allows you free access to the museum all year round, not just on Thursday nights or during special programs. It also helps support our educational offerings, our curatorial offerings, and everything else that we do here at the museum. So if you haven't become one yet, please consider becoming a museum member. I'd also like to now get to the meat of tonight's talk and stop stuttering, for goodness sake. I would like to welcome Louise Kames. Louise Kames holds an MFA degree in drawing and printmaking from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, a Master's of Arts degree in art history from the University of Illinois, and a Bachelor's of Arts degree in studio art and art history from Clark University, where she is now a professor of art and the director of the Art and Design program. Her drawings, prints, and installation-based work are exhibited widely, especially throughout the Midwest and Iowa. She is a regular participant in regional, national, and international juried exhibitions. Her work has been featured also in numerous international and national residency programs. Kames possesses as well a strong commitment to civic engagement. She serves on the City of Dubuque's Art of the River Committee, Studio Works Board, and is a past member of the Dubuque Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission. She was selected as a 2021 Iowa Arts Fellow by the Iowa Arts Council, and there are so many more accomplishments that Louise has that I can't get to them all tonight, otherwise we wouldn't get to hear from her at all. But even with that woefully inadequate introduction, I would like us all to give a warm welcome to Louise Kames. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you all for coming. I need to say I'm also on the board of the Dubuque Museum of Art. I don't want to get in trouble because they're here. And thanks especially those of you who made the trip from Dubuque. And exhibitions and bodies of work like this don't come out of anywhere. And so I'm really thankful for all of the support I've gotten for this particular exhibition, for this body of work, and all my family and friends and colleagues who support me along the way. So just a little list. I hope I got everybody on there. Slow down your seeing. This is a directive I often give to students in drawing classes, as well as a practice I endeavor to follow myself. This opens the door to seeing and feeling the sensitive and often ephemeral relationships between physical spaces and memory. I pay attention to where and what engages my attention. I then follow where this observation takes me and trust a process of not knowing where this will lead. This process might lead to an installation work, to a drawing, or to a print, as these are the 3 creative practices I work in. I'll first talk about drawing. I have a regular studio practice of creating pastel drawings of objects from nature. I draw from observation. And here's a peek into what it looks like into my studio. I think it's fun kind of talk a little bit about process. And so this is when I was drawing a large ginkgo tree branch. This drawing was exhibited at the Figge during the 2020 annual Rock Island Arts Exhibit. And as I'm talking about the Rock Island Arts Exhibit, as well as the former Davenport Museum Biennial, I've been bringing work to those 2 exhibits since I was a sophomore in college. That was the mid-'70s. And so I have a very long relationship with the Rock Island Arts Guild exhibition, the former Davenport Museum, which is now the Figge Art Museum. And I'm grateful for the support all along. My choice of what to draw is based on compositional as well as visual interest, and then some metaphorical content out of the studio. The ginkgo tree branch in this drawing is from a 100-year-old tree that had to be taken down for a construction project. The ginkgo is an ancient plant from Asia and is a symbol of longevity, hope, and peace. When the On Being podcast host, Krista Tippett, interviewed the now deceased poet Mary Oliver, she asked, "I'd like to talk about attention, which is another real theme that runs through your work." She's talking again to Mary Oliver. "And I know people associate you with that word, but I was interested to read that you began to learn that attention without feeling is only a report, that there is more to attention, for it to matter in the way you want it to matter." And Mary Oliver replied, and I read, "You need empathy with it, rather than just reporting. Reporting is for field guides, and they're great, they're helpful, but that's what they are. But they're not thought provokers, and they don't go anywhere. And I say something somewhere that attention is the beginning of devotion. What I do believe, that's it, devotion." So this framework of seeing, observation, or attention as entryway is what directs my art practice. Seeing, observation, or attention is then mediated with feeling, with empathy, in the drawing practice to create the art. We get to see this drawing for a while. The drawings, as you can see, they're not a report, and they're not a botanical drawing. You'll note that the organic object is almost always centered in my drawings, and this is intentional. This is very apparent in the wall of small drawings downstairs. They're all in the middle. Let me leave that on for a second. Oh, that's good too. Traditional religious icons have a formula because they're meant to be gazed upon. This is the framework for most of my drawings. They're not casual. Rarely does anything go off the edge. They're drawn from studied observation. They're not created through a camera's viewfinder, which crops off elements. I'm intentional about the composition. I rearrange leaves to suit my intention. The composition is always a mediation between nature, my scissors, and T-pins. And if I went back to the ginkgo, where you see the actual object, you'll see leaves are moved and around. And so again, it's a collaboration with nature. My hope is to direct the viewer to have the same centered stance or a meditative presence in front of the work. The framework of seeing, observation, or attention directs my making of installation work as well. Most days, I try to walk for exercise and to just collect myself. I often walk at Mount Carmel, the home of the Sisters of Charity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, or BVM Sisters, that is located at the south end of Dubuque, overlooking the Mississippi River. Oops, forgot my river slide, sorry. I was a BVM sister for 25 years, and still I'm in very close relationship with the congregation. Mount Carmel, then, is a place of beauty, personal memory, and connections. Oops, hold on. Important page, you don't want to miss it. In the summer of 2019, I started to notice these small piles of sticks and leaves left on a sidewalk near the driveway. Some days there would be one pile, others two or none for a few days. I found these curious, and I asked who was making these tidy piles of sticks and twigs. It clearly wasn't the work of the maintenance crew. I learned that they were created by a BVM sister who collected sticks and twigs on her daily walks. I also learned this sister was experiencing the beginning stages of dementia. For 2 years, I photographed the small piles of sticks and leaves placed near that driveway. This is a wall of some of the photographs that I took in my studio before I just had them up before I started making the work. I recently talked to a Mount Carmel neighbor who also walks the grounds at the Mother House, who, when I talked about this work, she remarked she never noticed any piles of sticks. Paying attention. In my conversations with Sister Pat, I discovered her aim in this gathering ritual was to beautify the landscape and to calm her mind. And Pat is truly my co-collaborator with this work. We can even think of the stick and twig piles as ancient cairns. They mark her daily walks. This is a video that I made of Sister Pat in front of one of the stick piles and asking her to talk about her purpose. And at the end, you'll see where the title from this work comes.
I love our drawings. I think they are so good. And I want to continue that beauty. And so I pick up things and sometimes a little heavy, sometimes not. But it makes me happy to think that it's just twigs, you might say. That's all, but they're alive. And so it makes me feel good to be able to help our to make our beautiful area always more beautiful. That's my goal. I don't see anything now beautiful in this area.
How about a hand for Pat? So that conversation with her happened before I even started the body, actually making. And as I said, I photographed for 2 years. And I knew I wanted to make something about this project because I thought it was so beautiful and such an example of personal ritual. But I didn't really have all the time to do that until I had a sabbatical from Clark in 2021. So that's what it was. My work during that time is most of the work that's in the exhibition. I wasn't able to travel because it was during COVID restrictions, and so it was a great time to stay at home and for me to spend time with this work. When I exhibited this work at Clark, Sister Pat was able to come to the exhibit, and she watched herself on the video, and she recognized it all, and she really enjoyed the work. So let's go to next. Oh no, yeah, there we go. So the installation was in the center. I think there's another slide. Oops, process slide. The installation was created by screen printing the photographs of the sticks and twigs on silk organza fabric. The images of the sticks become faint. So screen printing, there we go. The images of the sticks become faint with the veiled layers of the installation. You can see this if viewed from the front or from the back. The intent is to suggest the personal diminishment the individual feels or one's family and friends experience when one is having advancing dementia. The installation engages the viewer to walk around in the same way Sister Pat and I walked around the convent grounds. And if you've walked around downstairs, you know that the fabric gently moves like there's a gentle breeze. The title Veils suggests multiple meanings: a religious habit, veiled imagery, and the veil we were all under with COVID at the time that I was making this work. The images of the sticks are veiled. They're sequentially printed on the fabric panel. They move up the panels of fabric, an ascension of sorts. As you look through the fabric, the image of the sticks and leaves is veiled. Again, not unlike how we experience one with dementia. The images are printed on silk organza, and my choice of materials is always intentional. A friend once asked me, "Does everything have to mean something?" As an artist, I believe every choice you make, and the students are here, they have heard this before. As an artist, I believe every choice you make is an option to add meaning to the artwork. Silk organza is a beautiful fabric to work with, but it also carries a social history. It's sewn into wedding gowns and baptismal gowns. With that, it carries then a religious or social history. And so here, the very choice of fabric was a way of adding meaning to the work. This is in the studio at Clark, so you can more clearly in this one see how the veils move up, all seven, if you see them laid out on the table. And so next I'm going to talk about the centerpiece there, or I don't see anything that's not beautiful, prayers. The wall installation is composed of prayer book pages that carry toner transfer printed photographs. Let's try that again. Photographs of the stick piles. The office book is a prayer book that's used daily in religious congregations. It's just part of the daily prayer life. I cut up several office books. When I was making this installation, it was a time when many sisters were moving at Mount Carmel because they were, taking down some buildings, and putting up some buildings, and so I have a box of office books, so we may see these, we may see more, because they're just, it's also really beautiful paper. There are 49 pair of prayer book pages in the installation. They are arranged 7 tall and 7 wide on the wall, suggesting a religious book of hours or a calendar. Not all carry imagery. Sister Pat did not collect twigs every day. And so this choice also creates visual interest in the work. These two, if you walk by, flutter with air movement. And my choice to exhibit this installation not behind glass is also intentional. And so here, when you can actually have a much greater sense of feeling the paper, you have a stronger feel of the tactility of the paper, and that gives you a reference, just a physical reference to your own hand. Yep, everything has to mean something. Oops. And I think I have a process picture here. I come from a printmaking community where we always want to know how people made something. So close up. Oops. This is the process for making these. So I have copies of the photographs. These would be the prayer book pages that are going to receive the imagery. This is my hand wearing gloves, using wintergreen essential oil, and then the back of the copies are massaged with the oil, and that transfers the image onto the paper. But you have to have just the right wintergreen oil, just the right copy machine, and just the right substrate to print on to make them work. So this worked. And then again, this is actually the one this is the image that you see here. That's one of my favorite of the images to work with. And then they were, everything's manipulated digitally to make it look just right. And so then next we're going to, of the installation, talk about the drawings. The 7 drawings of stick piles, you've heard the story enough, so I won't talk too much more about the story, employ charcoal, pastel, as well as charcoal and gesso washes on paper. The drawings, when viewed left to right, move from full chroma to white on white, to again evoke the physical, emotional, and relational progression from fullness to absence in one with dementia. And when I showed this work at Clark, and I had the visit of BVM sisters, one of them stood in front and said, this is all of us. This is not just people with dementia. So to make it a little more sobering. The drawings were created with photographic references, not from observation. So they have a very different visual aesthetic than my drawings usually do. And so as I knew working with media to figure out in creating these. So it's different than the studio practice I talked of earlier. And this is a little easier. This is when they were exhibited in the gallery at Clark University. And you can, in this shot, you can see greater the progression of full chroma to absence of chroma. And then I think I have a slide of each. It's the first, second, 3, 4. And then I think there's a slide of each one. But they're much better looked at in person. So check them out on the way out. The drawings were actually when I started the project, I was like, I'm going to make drawings. And they were actually the last thing I made. The other elements, the other projects came together sooner. And finally, the last ghostly drawing. Also in the gallery is a series of works on willow trees. I have a very large, beautiful willow tree in the side yard of my home. And over the last 5 years, it's dying. And I had the city arborist come to look at it, as a few other people too. And he said, well, it's really, willows love water. It does happen to be previous homeowners planted it. It is planted at the highest point in my yard. That's not where you should plant a willow tree if you're ever planting one. But he said, we've just had too much drought. Willows like water, and the future is not good for this tree. I really like this tree. My sister is here, and she will know we grew up with willow trees surrounding our property, and so willow tree has a really strong family memory for me. And so I first created a large woodcut, which you see here and you see downstairs. And when I finished printing the first proof of that woodcut, I was working at Clark, which is just down the street from where I live, and there was a storm. I come back to this very day, I come back to my house, and this very large branch had fallen off. And so you can see, and will just continue until I am brave enough to, cut down the tree. But I was making a large print because I had signed up to go to a large woodcut workshop at the Hamilton, the National Wood Type Museum with Hamilton in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. And they're prescribed, the size, and so that's how I landed at the exact size of this print. And then on the left is an image of printing the steamroller, and my printing companion here, Anita Jung, is with us in the audience today. And I could have put a lot of photos in from that. It poured rain, there were major storms when we were trying to do this. We have to pull everything inside. So the steamroller printing was a lot of fun. And, and it's great community and all of that, but it doesn't make for really beautiful prints. At least my experience of how I wanted the print to look. And so then later, back in the studios at Clark, I hand-printed an edition of prints. And so that's what you see is the hand-printed downstairs, and in these photographs, is hand-printed on kitty cotta, which is an Asian paper. It was fun, and then I actually did a steamroller printing project at Clark after this. Actually, I think their prints turned out a little bit better, but we then hand-printed some of those as well, because everybody should learn how to hand-print a 60-inch woodcut, right? It's good. It's good. There's a lot of mechanical things. You have to figure out how to move a piece of paper that large and how to have it registered in the right place, but we don't have time for all of that. And so here's that print, and you might note that I like to work in series. And so we can't just have one, right? So that was winter willow, and then this is summer willow. And there may be more willows, but then this summer, then also, there's an example of things you have to figure out. You can see pointer doesn't work. It's clipped to a piece of wood with clips because my goal is always how can one person figure out how to do this? So you can work anytime you want to work. So that's just pulling the small print off the block. And then lastly, the body of work I put together, that I created for the exhibition, is this wall of small willow icons. And so these are back to the very studied observation practice. They're all studio drawn, not from photographs. And I loved how Joshua installed this in the gallery. I just really like the breakup of the wall, because you kind of see how I do things like all in a row. So this was really great, really beautiful, and much more impactful installation of those works. Then there is a sequence of these. There are, and the small square drawings, there are 3 of green leaves, there are 3 of going brown, and then there are 3 of dried leaves, because of course it has to, you know, I need a system to work in, and so that was the system of choice of which leaves to draw. And then I have this a little, if you visit my studio, once I've spent, like those large drawings, you know, I might spend a week on those drawings, and then I'm kind of attached to them, so I have all this stuff in my studio still. All these beautiful little willow leaves, because then it's like it's such a beautiful little object if you really took the time to look at it, and yeah. And then I just brought 3, and so there's one from the 3 of the green series, the half green series, and then the dried series. But again, much better to look at drawings in person. And finally, thank you. And I am happy to field questions. Or we can go eat and drink. Jean.
I'm really interested in the title that you're using from your friend. Because it's a double negative. I could use some water. Anyway, it's a double negative, and that creates a pause or a stop. So it's very interesting to me about how you spoke about the process of the nun that you met and how she's in the process of stuff.
Can I add that to the talk next time? All right. That wasn't that was just a comment, right? Okay, got it. Just
Can you talk about the process of kind of discovering that as the series name? I mean, did you know that immediately?
No, I knew it as soon as she spoke it. Because it was so, it's like, I take that back. I knew it the first time I looked at the video. Because I'm like conscious of framing and, you know, and I'm just conscious of empathy for Pat. You know, I asked her, can I, you know, make a video of you? And then I also, before I used it in any kind of public fashion, I also checked with BVM congregation leadership. I mean, I want to like honor Pat in this, Sister Pat in this, in using her work. But I really, you know, and I've said to her, feel, you know, that she's a co-collaborator in that project. I just get to serve it up to you. And so your charge tonight is to go forth and pay attention. Yep, Mary?
The drawings on the office book pages, did you choose the scripture?
I did, and now I can't remember what it is. We could. No, it was, yeah, it was, I think it's, you know, there are different scripture, or there are different liturgical times in the calendar, and so I think it's ordinary time. I think it was just like, these are ordinary, this is ordinary time. This is someone making a mark in our ordinary lives. Yep.
Have you ever thought of doing these in relief sculpture, the leaves and all the branches and all that?
In more woodcuts or sculpture?
In sculpture, you could do it in relief in metal, or you could do it in wood.
I was gonna say metal and I don't get along, but I do copper etchings, yes, but I haven't. I mean, I do like the connections of you're making a woodcut of a wood object. I mean, I do get the double piece on that, and so I might maybe more woodcuts.
One practical question.
Yep.
What happens to the bundles of branches that
Oh, the maintenance crew picked them up. So I always had to get over, you know, in the mornings before they would like sweep them up. And then I had, you know, sisters that lived there and even other people I knew who knew that I was doing this project, who weren't in the community, would send me a message. There's a new stick pile. I had everybody, I had everybody involved. I had everybody involved in this, and so it's. And again, what I hope that did for everyone who are making those kinds of calls is it's an opportunity and a charge, you know, to pay attention. Like, what do you see? What are the, and for me, it's just like, just little glances like that, oh, it just takes my mind like down a path. Gary.
So I'll use that to ask, there are some stunning pastels downstairs that you didn't talk about.
Right. So they're just two more of a slightly different style. I also have made pastels sort of in a looser style, and so I have to admit that those also were from photographs. And so I'm not comfortable drawing from photographs because it's not the same, it's an exercise versus a studio meditation for me. And so I find greater personal, and I think the works have a different kind of charge if I sit with the actual objects over time, but just the nature of those leaves. But I will tell you, I know exactly where those branches are that I photographed, and they're just getting little, I look at them every day, and they're just getting little sprigs of green on them. So those particular branches will still be living this season, so. I get attached to the objects. Yes?
So if and when you have to have your willow tree cut down, will you plant another tree, a different kind, or a willow
Yes.
tree again?
I think it's probably not wise to plant a willow tree there, but I built a shade garden right underneath there. And so I do need another tree.
You know what
Lynn,
kind?
I've had some suggestions from a friend, but, Lynn?
Why don't you water the tree?
Oh, I did. You know, I did. That's what the arborist said. But he told me how much water I would really need to water, what I really need to water that.
Isn't that a fire hydrant?
Yeah. No, it's like, you know, empty my dehumidifier out there with the tree. It's just like taking it up the stairs. Yeah. It's not very pretty tree right now, to be honest. It's really not very pretty. Yes.
Will you continue your artwork in like other fields, like comparing cities or different objects with overall life?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Will you continue your work in relating different stages of life to different objects around the world?
I will probably always reflect what's going on in my life or what's going on in the life of the people around me, because that's where my empathy lives. And so there will always be some kind of personal, there generally is, except those two drawings, there's generally, sorry, the ones, generally some kind of, you know, personal relationship with where, you know, where it was picked up from. You know, I'm always picking up things to draw or. Eric.
Well, is there a body of work that you're working on right now?
It's called, the end of the semester is 1 month from today. It's called, yeah. Bring on summer, which is, I'll say, that's a little bit about my artistic practice. So like I could do one of those small drawings, I could do that in a weekend. And I'm not saying like I can draw so fast, but it's just like I have the like headspace and time to do, to drawing on weekends. I need more headspace for the installation work. And so I have several installations that I've made over a few years. And they've all been made during sabbatical time. So they've all been made when I can get other things out of my head and just let the work percolate. Chris?
This is for everybody. Louise was one of my very first art professors when I was a student at Clark a really long time ago. I've been an art teacher in the Quad City area for 30 years now. And I started taking notes about what you were saying, and then I stopped because these are the things that I have been telling my students for 30 years. So if you ever wonder if you influence how people see the world, like.
Yes?
As a student of yours.
Yes, oh no, now all my students are gonna talk, former students.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I have a career that's very creative, so I thank you for that.
Thank you, Chris, thank you, Terry, and I still remember everybody's names.
I know.
The book that you printed on, do you know what kind of paper that was? Do you collect books because of their paper? Have you used books before?
It would be, so it's a very fine, thin cotton paper. I mean, I know it's cotton just because of how well it receives the transfer. It's, you can look at it. It's a really thin, but yeah, the specificity of what the paper is similar to, I'm working this out in my head, is similar to the choice of fabric. But like the drawings are all on, there's a kind of paper that I like to draw on, or kinds of paper that I like to draw on, and so that has a slightly different thing. But for installation works, I really like to be particular about the surface, because every decision you make is opportunity. Jean?
In talking about your selection of grounds to work with, one of the things that has always moved me is the negative space, or the space around the iconographic images that you bring. It's atmospheric, it has a palpability, it has a physicality that is as important to me as the object that you're drawing. So for me, all of the work that you're showing upstairs actually talks about the environment, or the space on which the action is taken is as important as the object.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make that observation.
Yeah. And the surfaces of the backgrounds I am very particular about that, and then the scale of what the negative space is, and yeah. Thank you, yeah. It has a few layers of pastel.
Yeah, I can tell.
Anybody else? Well, I'll be downstairs for a little bit, if you want to ask me any questions you didn't want to say out loud.
Louise, we want to thank you so much for coming and giving this presentation tonight. We so appreciate it, and not only for the people in the audience, but for the people who will experience it by recording. It's really going to change the way we view this work, and we so thank you for coming. The galleries are open till 8 p.m. If you haven't had a chance to experience the installation yet, please go and see it now. And as Louise mentioned, she'll go downstairs and generously answer some more questions. So thank you all for coming tonight. Please come back next Thursday or anytime you'd like.